What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the channel, and for you guys that are here for the London Bulldogs information and look into the team, this is going to be our primer for OTAs, mini camp, all of that stuff leading up to preseason and the next RFL season. There's a lot of good information that I'm going to try to give you guys in today's video, but we're going to do this in a format that I've rarely done for Bulldogs videos. Now that I am comfortable editing videos, I'm going to go ahead and edit this, make it more concise, and make it a more watchable format for you guys so you guys can get all the information you could possibly want on the London Bulldogs here heading into basically what is the startup of the next season. So I want to start off today by giving you guys the lay of the land headed into all of this stuff in the early parts of what is going to be Season 7 of the RFL. We've made tons of moves with the team, whether it be draft picks, signings, trades. You guys know that I, as the coach of the London Bulldogs, I like to make moves, and I like to make my team younger. I like to make my team faster. I like to try to make my team better. And I feel that we did that in a few major ways this offseason. So I want to go ahead and dive into the roster and show you guys how things stack up so you can get an idea for where the camp battles might be, where position battles might be, and some potential roster spots that are either open or some guys that are competing for roster spots that are going to be tight and there might not be room for certain players on the roster. So to start off with here, I want to start off at the quarterback position, which I think is a pretty easy place to start at. We have veteran Timmy Merritt, 89 overall, 29 years old at this point in his career, has been around for the Bulldogs since winning Relo Bowl #1 all the way back in RFL Season 1. So he's going to be going into his 7th season here for the London Bulldogs and his 7th season here in the league in general. And he's looking pretty solid in terms of on paper, in terms of his overall, in terms of his attributes, but we all know that he has been up and down throughout his career, and we have brought in young quarterbacks of late in order to try to push him, in order to try to give competition at the quarterback position and get more out of the position that has been inconsistent for us for a long time. So last year, you guys may have seen Dre Lawson had some opportunities, and he played well in those opportunities up until the time of his season-ending injury. So we'll be looking to see how he might be able to bounce back from his season-ending injury last year if he does get opportunities. Tyler Miller also maintains a roster spot carried over from last year. Tyler Miller is a quarterback that got some playing time at the end of the season. We also drafted Speedy Malcolm Love out of Wisconsin. 6'3", 208 pounds. He's very fast for his size with 91 speed, 90 acceleration, and adds that dimension to the game that a guy like Dre Lawson also adds to the game. So he's a very interesting prospect coming out of college. And the question here is, how many quarterbacks are we going to fit on the roster, and can we fit on the roster? So there are some other interesting battles, and one of those is going to be at the halfback position, where you see Matt Wheaton, who has carried this team for a couple of seasons now, in addition to Vic Cage, who was signed last offseason, going to be splitting some time with veteran running back Jay Morris, who is one of the top user-created players that entered free agency and we were able to acquire. Phase 1 organized team activities have officially opened up for the London Bulldogs, which is essentially, if you guys don't know, OTAs are generally broken down into 3 phases. The first phase being more of a strength and conditioning phase where it is purely voluntary for the players. Coaches aren't really allowed to be too involved, mainly just the strength and conditioning coaches, and a lot of it is voluntary, and the time is decided by the players how they're going to spend their time. So far, so good with everything going on with the team so far, but Jay Morris, a huge add to the team, and that's not even to mention that Christian Nash is still hanging around on the roster and added some value last year and is going to be competing for extra playing time in Season 2. But that does bring me to the tight end position, where we have a very defined role here, a very defined battle as well between these players, with Ben Hartman, the veteran up here, 27 years old, provides a ton of value to the team is a very well-rounded tight end, but then you have the young Reggie Streeter, who is hot on his heels in terms of his paper overall and his skill set. So Reggie Streeter figuring to try to get even more playing time in his second season in the league. And then you have Thomas McDonald, who is a player that played well last season whenever he got his opportunities and may see more playing time this season. You actually have a very interesting dynamic going on here at the tight end position as well. At the wide receiver position, some things to note here. Stanley Whitehead and Saul Leckie, the solid veterans that have basically anchored this offense for a long time now, are maintaining their spots. We see no intention of doing anything different with these players than we have done in the past. We're going to continue to lean on them in our offensive side of the game. But where the difference maker comes in this year is we do have a battle for the third spot. And you know what? These guys might even battle for the spot of Saul Leckie or somebody, higher up than that, depending on how things work out in OTAs and minicamp and preseason. Jake Winkelman, the rookie star coming out of Baylor, has a lot of speed, has a lot of ability to stretch defenses. We'll see how that translates whenever we actually get onto the field with these players, but he's an interesting player to watch because he's also challenged by Anthony Connell, who saw a very high uptick in his playing time last year and played really well in that playing time, and not to mention a few other solid players that we have kept around, like Clarence Wilkerson, Terrell Pollard, Zion Okonjo III, and Madison Parsons, who all have different skill sets that add some value. That's a lot of guys competing for a few roster spots. When you really think about it, you're probably keeping 5 to 6 wide receivers on the roster in most cases, and we have 8 receivers here. So there are some guys competing for roster spots that may not be there, and that's pretty much going to do it for the offense. We will go ahead and talk about O-line here, where there's not a whole lot of battle going on, but definitely want to recap who we have at each position. So following everything that happened in the offseason, you guys may know that whenever I came in as the head coach / general manager of the London Bulldogs, I made an effort to bring in as many young linemen as I could for this team to try to help things out. And we were able to acquire some very solid linemen that developed into starter level players that we were then able to trade away this season in order to help our team out quite a bit. And so you will notice that a lot of the younger guys are no longer around as depth players as they were in the past, but those players were utilized to get higher draft picks, to get capital, and to get players that are going to help our team out for a long time to come. And so the way that the roster shakes out on the offensive line now is the cemented left tackle Jake Moffitt is hanging around still, and he'll be around for a while, backed up by Shamir Burns. This is a player that has played all over our offensive line, from center to guard to tackle. He's a very versatile player. At left guard is Damian Hickman, the second-year superstar that we were very fortunate to be able to pick up last year during the season, backed up by star Bronson Gray, 26 years old now, has a little bit of developmental time left, a very good athlete at that guard position, but never really yet turned into what we wanted him to turn into. He is fighting for that starting position and potentially fighting for the right guard position too, so there is some option there for him to have a bit of a position battle going on, but Damian Hickman is looking very good at the end of last season, and we hope that he continues that into this season. We then also have Richard Porter and Lee Corona. Madden not letting us type in his full name. Lee Corona is the cemented center. The interesting player here is Richard Porter, who's a very good run blocker, but struggles in the pass blocking game. He plays pretty well at center and guard, and he does not necessarily have a defined role on the team right now. That is a little bit up in the air, probably going to end up being our right guard, but we did also bring in veteran Travis Waddle, who is a player that has a lot of experience and has a very balanced skill set and offers us a little bit more in the pass blocking game to complement his run blocking ability, which is something we've been looking for a little while. So there is a bit of a battle going on for that right guard position between a slew of different players, between Travis Waddle, Richard Porter, Porter and Bronson Gray, as well as the young Cole Nickerson. But that is a position to watch, is right guard, to see what happens in terms of who might be able to pull ahead and win that position as we head into Season 7. And then last but not least, on offense, we have our right tackle, Jason McBride, who has been very good for us for multiple seasons now. Still only 25 years old, currently sitting at around an 85 overall with his temporary boosts and everything. Jason McBride looking like he's going to be just as good as ever. We want to talk a little bit about our defensive line, and Drew Brewer is the obvious name that comes to mind. Drew Brewer picked up a very, very minor injury during the first phase of our organized team activities during phase 1. He will definitely be back within the week. He's a player that is figuring to have hopefully a bounce back season this season in comparison to last year, which was his rookie year, where he was off the field for quite a bit of time due to injury. He didn't play as well as everybody would have expected him to in terms of getting those sack numbers and whatnot. I thought that he actually played really well and was one of our most valuable players on the defensive side of the ball because of how disruptive he was. It just didn't translate to the sack sheet. But I'm looking for that to continue this year. He is continuing to project out as one of our top pass rushers on paper, and I definitely think he's going to be able to bring that, especially with the additions that we made to the line this year. Now, what I will say is we brought back both Sherman Fluker and Riley Draft to back up Drew Brewer this year. They were both pretty successful in backing him up in prior seasons, and so I'm okay with what we did there to back him up. But what we also did was we brought in veteran defensive end Rich Barnett in order to add some depth there. We also maintain Al Smalls, who's been around. We brought in Kevin Studebaker and drafted rookie Julio Gonzalez out of Miami. So we actually have a lot of names here. There are a lot of players that are probably not all going to be able to make the full 53-man roster just because of how many players there are here. And then there is Willis Savage, who really came on last season as our leading pass rusher, and I hope he can continue that performance this year as he transitioned from outside linebacker to defensive end. I think that he's looking like a very bright spot for our defense, but the big change here comes with the drafting of Jermaine Taylor. Now, we were pretty happy with what we had on the inside last year in Jack Brodine, who has always been a force on the inside of this defensive line. He's the rock, as I say, that anchors this defense. And DeMarco Grois is also very good in there. But bringing in Jermaine Taylor, having the opportunity to bring in a very elite pass rusher on the inside of your defensive line is a game changer for us. And I think this change is going to allow us to have more success off of the edge with guys like Willis Savage and Drew Brewer, as the pass rush on the inside forces quarterbacks to the edge where Drew Brewer and Willis Savage will be winning their one-on-one battles and having those opportunities at sacks on the quarterback. And then just finishing up on the defensive line here, we also brought back Gordon Levchik, who is a name that some might remember from last preseason. And then we also have depth defensive tackle Gregory Lincoln hanging around. At the linebacker positions, I think that it goes to say that, or goes without saying, that we're going to have a little bit of change because of the pickup of middle linebacker Duke Pascal. Now, it's interesting because Duke Pascal was technically an outside linebacker for his previous team, and he's a player that wants to be the captain of that linebacking corps. So Duke Pascal moves back to middle linebacker, which is where he is more naturally suited. And he will be our middle linebacker, backed up by Taylor Purcell. We are potentially looking to add more linebacking depth because we are a little bit thin in the area. But what this does, because we are running a true 4-3 defense, is it moves Shane Masters to left outside linebacker. More often than not, he's going to be that strong side linebacker. He's more of that type of player, and I think that role is going to suit him very well. He's a good run stopper. He has very good zone coverage whenever we do choose to utilize him in coverage situations, so he's going to be a very good player alongside of Duke Pascal. And then at the right outside linebacker position, we have Ronnie Santiago, who's a guy that we've talked a lot about at length at multiple times that I think is going to be a very good player. We'll see what happens with him. I think that the addition of a guy like Duke Pascal, as well as Shane Masters going to left outside linebacker, is going to take some weight off of the shoulders of this right outside linebacker position, the will linebacker position. So Ronnie Santiago is going to have some more freedom to develop as a player because there's not going to be as much responsibility on him. He is backed up by Clint Riddick, and our left outside linebacker Shane Masters is going to be backed up by AJ Waters. However, where I think some of our most important changes came to this team during the offseason were actually late moves during the offseason and draft picks within our secondary. We ended up trading for Matthew Hall at cornerback, who I think is going to fit what we try to do as a defense. He's a very good man coverage corner, and he's a veteran player. I think that he much rather fits what we try to do as a defense than some of the players that we had been trying to utilize in that way in the past. And so Matthew Hall comes over and bolsters our secondary, which is already very, very good with the likes of Isaac Lockhart and Shaquille Tiller out there on the edge. It is yet to be seen how these players will split their reps and who is going to fall into what category and which position on the starting defense. But we have three guys here competing for various different opportunities there on the defense, and that is not even to mention guys like Caleb Norris, Simon Mulholland, and then Keenan Grant, who we actually like a lot coming out of college. And that is where I think our biggest pickup of the entire offseason is, outside of our draft pick of Jermaine Taylor, and that is the trade for Jacoby Haskins, X-Factor free safety coming over from the Diablos. This is a huge pickup for us because he is exactly what we want in a safety. He's not only athletic, he can not only cover in zone, but he's also a very good hitter. He's got pretty good hit power. I believe he has the big hitter trait, if I'm not mistaken, and we've been looking for help at that free safety position for a long time. It's a position that's been up in the air. We weren't comfortable with what we've had for a long time, so he solidifies that position for us. And he's going to be backed up by Blair Reed, who's been around for a while, and that allows our strong safety position to be a little bit more defined because Ike Page has bounced around in our secondary because of the struggles at other positions at times. So Ike Page and Trey Simeon's potentially battling it out for strong safety. Now, this is a position that coming into phase one of offseason workouts here, I would not have believed that Ike Page would potentially have as much competition for this position as I thought, but Trey Simeons is looking like an absolute workhorse at this strong safety position potentially. He's got all of the size and athleticism that you could possibly want out of a football player as even a linebacker or a safety, and I'm really looking forward to getting this guy on the field and seeing if he can't push Ike Page to be better and maybe even potentially take over at this strong safety position, which is something, again, in the secondary we've been looking for players to take over for a while now. And then beyond the main team there, we also brought in rookie kicker Michael Flota, and we also brought in young kicker Ryan Peake. Now, the reason for this is we actually signed Ryan Peake during off-season free agency, not knowing if we were going to be able to draft a kicker or not. So Ryan Peake probably looking like our practice squad player, but what we liked out of him was the kick accuracy that he displays and his ability to be accurate and consistent with his kicks. He doesn't have the biggest leg, but he does have the accuracy that's pretty nice. Veteran punter, who I believe is one of the best punters in the league based on his performance, Chandler Overton, returns, and he is looking to continue to win the field position battle for us. So that is mainly what I wanted to cover in today's video. I don't want to get into too much detail on anything because I want you guys to experience the camp battles for themselves and get an idea for, who may potentially win certain positions, who may win roster spots. And that's not even to say that this is everybody that's going to be competing for a roster spot, because there are a lot of undrafted free agents out there that have not had the opportunity to sign with RFL teams yet, and they will get that opportunity soon enough. We will be looking to potentially add some of those players to compete for roster spots and maybe push the competition within the team and see if we can't get even more out of this roster. So, there are some interesting things to come. Hopefully you guys will stay tuned to the channel. We'll also stay tuned to our Instagram and Twitter pages and everything. Pay attention to our social media and pay attention to the Relocation Football League's channel as well, as the college series begins to come to a close, and they are getting majorly through their season now and getting towards playoff time. A lot of interesting things happening. This is a very fun time of year for the Relocation Football League, and I'm really excited for the beginning, phase 1 of organized team activities here for the Bulldogs, because we are going to get to see, some surprises out of players. We always do. We're going to get to see some positive surprises, some negative surprises in terms of who's going to step up and who may be floundering and things like that. It'll be real interesting to see who potentially wins some position battles and wins playing time for this team this season, and I'm really excited for it. So make sure you guys stay tuned to our social media and all that stuff. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and comment down below any questions or anything you might have about the team, about our moves, about the future. Let me know down in the comment section, and we will address those in the future. I'll see you guys in the next one, and I hope you have a good one.